On Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live every single day. And we are broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game National Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. The Predators are in action tonight on the road, taking on Connor Bedard and the Chicago Blackhawks. Puck drop at 7:30. So we'll have all of your pregame coverage starting right here at 6:30 p.m. on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. So since there is a Predators game tonight, no Willy for the first couple of hours. We'll catch up with Willy at 1 p.m. But D-Mase is here on a Friday. D-Mase, how we doing?
Hey, it's doing well. It's a nice, beautiful day outside, so that's all I need is a little sunshine.
It is beautiful out today. It's going to be a beautiful weekend.
Absolutely. So I'm taking full advantage of it.
As you should.
Which means I'm going to be on my back patio. That's it.
Just sit, enjoy the sunshine.
Exactly.
Listen to some tunes.
Be away from people.
There you go.
Yeah,
there you go.
Except my people, but just be away from
But just
other
from people in general. Yeah. Just a nice little social battery recharge.
Exactly.
Kentucky has a new coach, which was met with a lot of excitement. Everyone's super excited about it. Everyone loves the hire. Just kidding. Do you remember on Thanksgiving when Mark Stoops, all of these reports were leaked that Mark Stoops was going to be the next head coach at Texas A&M, and there was so much backlash on social media from Texas A&M fans, like literal sky is falling kind of backlash so bad that Texas A&M said, whoa, maybe we should reevaluate this. I thought we were going to have another one of those last night whenever it was announced that Mark Pope was going to be the next head coach of Kentucky.
Yeah, I mean, he's a former Wildcat. So he has a history with the program, was on the 97 championship team.
He played under Pitino, whenever that was.
Yeah, he played under Pitino, so it was the 97, I believe, 97 championship game. Went to Baylor. He's had some success, but not success that would invigorate, I guess, on first sight, invigorate a program. Yeah. He hasn't had that type of success.
It's not the name that's like,
exactly.
Oh, yeah, we got
Hurley invigorates your program once again. Jay Williams invigorates. Donovan, these guys that have won championships or have winning pedigree, they invigorate your fan base. This might have put them to sleep.
And even I questioned how much Scott Drew really moved the needle and how much he really invigorated the fan base. And that's nothing against Scott Drew. I think it was more so the expectations at Kentucky. And Scott Drew won a national championship.
Yeah.
So we will get back into that. I want to get your reaction to that. But I want to start here on something that we heard from Brian Callahan in his press conference earlier this past week. Everything that we talk about in the offseason, D-Mase, whether it was in free agency, all of the conversations that we're having leading up to the draft, every single one of those conversations has a caveat or an asterisk of the quarterback. And that everything that we have talked about throughout this offseason, the moves that the Titans have made throughout this offseason, is for what? To benefit the quarterback, to get the quarterback more weapons, to protect the quarterback. Every time we talk about expectations for the team this season, it's couched with, well, that all depends on Will Levis's development. It's all about the quarterback. Because if Will Levis turns into the next Tom Brady, then we're not going to be talking about, the third or fourth wide receiver on this team. We're going to be talking about, well, we got our quarterback. Those are the conversations that Cincinnati has. Those are the conversations that Kansas City has. We got our quarterback, so we're good. And if Will Levis doesn't come to fruition, if Will Levis doesn't take steps forward, well, then you're not going to be very good. And you're probably going to be picking a quarterback here in the near future. So it all has to do with the quarterback. And a lot of that has to do with how Brian Callahan helps the quarterback. There was one thing that really stuck out to me that Brian Callahan said in his press conference. A lot of things, frankly,
he said a lot of things.
that stuck out to me about Brian Callahan, but especially as far as Will Levis is concerned. This was Brian Callahan earlier this week on Will Levis's development, not just on the field, but off as well.
It's a two-pronged process. It kind of happens simultaneously, but if you ever were to ask anybody that plays what comes first, and obviously the performance comes first. And so he's going to pour into learning a new system, learning what's asked of him, how to execute at a high level. And in his operation of learning, he can help get the information to the other guys on the offense, and that's where you start to take on a leadership role. But as a leader, you always got to make sure you're taking care of what you need to take care of first, so that your example, at the minimum, is what you want people to follow. And I think he's done a really good job of that. But there's an element where he's got two things going on. He's trying to build relationships and be a leader, as well as learn an entirely new way of doing and playing football than he's been accustomed to in his first year. So he's got a lot on his plate.
That was Brian Callahan again earlier in this week. And there was another clip where he mentioned as well, he's like, look, I want Will to be him. Like, I want him to be himself. I don't want to tell him what to do. I don't want to tell him how to act. This was Brian Callahan.
Just from what I've seen so far, and again, I'm still learning Will every day that goes on. But he's got an intensity and an intent to every time he walks in the building. I think you see that in his play. When you watch him play, you see that intensity, that fire that he's got. That's not manufactured. That's how he is. He's got a way about him that is driven. I think he wants to be a great player, and he puts the requisite work in. That part's been fun to see. Just as you see him in the offseason, he went out to California to work with some people. He's very determined to improve his game, and I think that part, you have that part, you got a chance to do a lot of really cool things. But I've seen that from him in this early portion. He is front and center. He takes notes. He asks questions. He does all the things you'd want to see early in the process of a guy that's trying to improve his game and get better.
And again, another thing that really stuck out to me was how Brian Callahan said, I just want him to be himself. I want him to be the kind of leader that he wants to be. I'm not going to be breathing down his neck. I'm not going to be hanging over his shoulder and telling him where to be and when he needs to be there and how to act when he is there. I just want him to be himself. Look, I have no idea what Will Levis is going to become in this league. And I have no idea what Will Levis is going to look like this season. I don't know what the Brian Callahan era with the Tennessee Titans is going to look like. I don't know if he's going to look like a genius, and I don't know if he's going to look like a buffoon. But I do hope it's the former rather than the latter. So I don't know how this quarterback and coaching relationship is going to work, or what the future holds for this marriage between Brian Callahan and Will Levis. But just based off of what we heard Brian Callahan say there, how do you feel at this point in the season, not just about Will Levis and not just about Brian Callahan, but kind of the marriage between the two?
It's going to be a work in progress. Will has to trust Brian and Holtz, and they have to trust Will. They have to trust that he leads in his own way. They have to trust that it will come. They can't put a time clock on, when his leadership is going to show up and how it's going to show up and manifest itself. You got to let a young quarterback lead and find his space in his time. He was coming off of a season where he did some good things and he did some things that he needed to improve on. Last year wasn't his team. Even when he became the starting quarterback, it still wasn't his team. I think everybody deferred more probably to Derrick Henry, somebody like that has been there, that has been through, some of these hard-fought games. But now this becomes his team. But he has to do it in a way that doesn't come off as, phony. And that's what Brian said. Listen, what he's doing, it's genuine. It's not coming off as concocted or this is not who I am or, I act this way in the building, but when I'm outside the building, I'm something totally different. With the quarterback, they have to see, that consistency across the board. And that's what I said. I've said this before, he's just going to have to find his way, find out what's best on how to lead for him. He can't try to do it like, Ryan Tannehill did it. Can't do it like Derrick Henry did it. He may take bits and pieces from them, but he has to then do it his own way. Because if he doesn't do it his way genuinely, then it comes off as, all right, this dude, he's really not, he's really not a leader. He's just posing as a leader. But again, from what I've seen, it seems like he's headed down the right road. I tell you that. He has energy. He seems to want to get better each and every week. And, he seems to want to get better each and every week. And, he seems to want to get better each and every week. And, he seems to want to get better each and every week. And, he seems to want to get better each and every week. And, he seems to want to get better each and every week. And, he seems to want to get better each and every week. And, he seems to want to get better each and every week. And, he seems to want to get better each and every week. And, he seems to want to get better each and every week. And, he seems to want to get better each and every week. And, he seems to want to get better each and every week. And, he seems to want to get better each and every week. And, he seems to want to get better each and every week. And, he seems to want to get better each and every week. And, he seems to want to get better each and every week. And, he seems to want to get better each and every week. And, he seems to want to get better each and every week. And, he seems to want to get better each and every week. And, he seems to want to get And, that's all you can ask of a young player is to come in, work your tail off, get better, and especially a quarterback, and lead in your own way. Because being a quarterback, you are the leader 365 days of the year. That's just the way it is. You are the face of the franchise. So there are things that you can do, and there are things that you can't do. You can be yourself, but even in being yourself, you got to know there are things I can't do, things I can do, things I can't say, things I can say, as a quarterback. And he will learn this as the season goes on.
And that is 100% true. And that's something that we talked about, I know, around this time a couple of years ago when Ryan Tannehill was posting photos on the boat with this Celsius ad. And it's like, look, I get it's voluntary workouts, but you're the quarterback, dude.
Exactly.
And what you say, what you post, where you are and where you aren't, all of that is a headline. All of that is going to be topic of conversation. You're the quarterback. And I look at, Brian Callahan and his experience in Cincinnati, and I don't want to compare Joe Burrow and Will Levis because they are not the same. But, on the field, off the field, personality-wise. But when Brian Callahan talks about that, of like, look, he's learning how to be a leader, and I'm going to give him the space to do that. You've been around rookie quarterbacks. Joe Flacco was a rookie when you were in Baltimore. How important, in your opinion, do you think it is to have a coaching staff letting, and I know he's not a rookie, but let a young quarterback kind of come into fruition on his own?
I think it's critical because it's like go learn for the quarterback. It's trial by error, new quarterback. Some things you do may work. Some things you do may not work. The way you approach certain things may work. The way you approach other things may not work. You got to be constantly evaluating your leadership qualities as a quarterback because it's every time you never stop being a leader.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is. That position, you never stop being a leader. Why do you see these guys? You never hear most of these quarterbacks. You don't hear about them during the season. Some dabble in social media and stuff like that. But for the most part, these guys are locked into what they're doing because they know the responsibility they have is greater than everybody else's on that team. Because not only do you have to be the leader for the offense, you have to be the leader for the defense, which in turn means you're the leader for the whole team. You just got to let it. They allowed Joe to grow into his leadership.
Yeah.
What was good with Joe and may not be as good for Will, Joe had a bunch of veteran guys around him, a bunch of leaders around him. So he didn't feel pressure to go in there and when he was named the starting quarterback and to be that guy.
And it was it was first overall pick pressure.
Yeah, but the pressure for Joe, because he wasn't supposed to start his rookie year. He wasn't. No. Troy Smith was designated the starter at the beginning of the year in camp because Steve had just retired. They drafted Joe. Troy was there. Troy had finished a few games.
I'm sorry, excuse me. When you said Joe, I'm thinking Burrow.
Oh, yeah.
Because we were just talking
about
Joe
Burrow.
Yes. Flacco.
Joe Flacco. I'm talking about the leadership and being young and everything else.
That's why I was confused. Please continue.
No, but Joe had other leaders on that team, and he was just allowed to sort of come into it his own way. Watch other guys. Don't feel that he has to be the rah-rah guy. Just go in and play your game. Show up every day. That gains respect. That allows you to be a leader even more. When you show up every day, prepared, ready to go, first one in, last one to leave, stuff like that, doing the extra things, that stuff helps. Doing things in the locker room, picking up stuff, that's on the ground, making sure the locker room, all of that stuff means something when it comes to being a leader of the team. And these are the things that he's going to have to find out, just like the things that Joe had to find out his rookie year. He didn't automatically pick it up in day one. It took throughout the season. And then once he got it, he got it. And he had proven that not only can this guy ball, but yeah, he's a damn good leader as well.
Respect the hell out of him.
Exactly. And they respect that because he showed up every day. That's what Will has to do. No matter what's going on, no matter who's injured, who's not, you have to show up every day. You can't have off days as a leader and a quarterback of a team.
And from Will Levis's perspective, it was probably a pretty uncomfortable feeling of, okay, I step into the starting role. I'm figuring out who I am on this team, what my role is on the field, off the field, in the locker room as a leader. I'm getting, my first year, I'm just getting acclimated to what my expectations are. And then the coach gets fired. Everything that I thought that I knew about this team, now I don't know what coach is going to come in and if they're going to like me or not. Mm-hmm. Because what if that next head coach came in and said, you know what, we really don't really like this Will Levis guy. We'll hope for the best and we'll get through this year, but we really want to find our guy. Like, that very well could have been the case.
Yeah.
And I'm sure those thoughts were going through Will Levis's head. Go through my head if I were in his position. That he thought, okay, well, I just spent a year with this entire coaching staff and I knew what was expected of me. I was carving out my role. I was building these relationships with the coaching staff. And now I have to start over. Now everything is new again. That's a scary feeling. So I'm sure for Will Levis, hearing Brian Callahan say those things, talk about how, he's working on himself as a leader, acknowledging that Will Levis has a full plate because he does.
Yeah.
Because he's stepping into year 2. He needs to be better on the field. He's going to take on a larger role off the field as a leader. That's a lot. That's overwhelming. So I'm sure to a certain extent, from Will Levis's perspective, it's probably very reassuring and almost calming to a sense to hear your new head coach with a sense of all of this uncertainty before Brian Callahan and this new coaching staff came in, to hear him say things like that publicly. And I think that kind of support matters. Whenever we talk about new quarterbacks getting drafted and becoming the next guy, the new starter, we talk about, are they going to boom or are they going to bust? Are they going to be successful or are they not? Baker, I think, is the perfect example of that. First overall pick, very high expectations. The Cleveland Browns viewed him as the answer for their franchise. But what we don't talk about enough, I don't think, is the fact that Baker was in an incredibly tumultuous situation. A constant revolving door of head coach and offensive coordinator. That there wasn't the infrastructure in place in Cleveland for a young quarterback to be able to survive. Trevor Lawrence in his first year in Jacksonville. What if Urban Meyer never got fired? Maybe we look at Trevor Lawrence in a completely different light. Having that sense of stability, I think, is incredibly important for a young quarterback. Now, does that exist behind the scenes? We're about to find out. But at least I get the sense and I get the feeling and the vibe from Brian Callahan every time he talks to the media that they are going to give Will Levis whatever he needs to be successful.
Well, they have to. I think you would be doing the franchise an injustice if you don't give your quarterback every resource that he needs to be successful. I think the most beneficial part here is going to be, and not many people, no one's talking about it, and I don't understand why. There were several instances last year, and this is not, I'm not saying, I think Vrabel is a good coach. I think he is. I think his voice just got, sometimes the voice gets kind of stale in the locker room. And maybe you need a different voice in the locker room. But he is a good coach. But I think the advantage that many people are not talking about, no one's talking about, the advantage is this. There were several times last year where questions were asked of Mike Vrabel. And I didn't play that position, so I can't tell you how to coach it. I didn't play quarterback. I can't tell you how to, and he was right. He was absolutely right. But not many times you hear coaches say things like that. Like, I'm not the kick. I didn't kick football, so I can't tell you what's going on.
I also think Vrabel was saying that just to kind of be an ass.
Yeah, he probably was, but it was true. But it was true.
Yeah.
It was true. Here's the thing. Brian Callahan, you will never get that from him. Why? Because he's coached the position. He's been around the position. So when questions are asked about Will Levis, he can answer those questions. He doesn't say, I defer to this guy, or I don't play the position, so I don't know what it really entails, but they do got a lot on their plate. Well, Brian knows that Will has a lot on his plate. He's been around guys, Burrow, Manning, that had a lot on their plate. And how did they react and how did they operate in the midst of having all that stuff on their plate? That is going to be valuable for Will Levis. Mm-hmm. It wasn't valuable for Will Levis last year because the head coach couldn't relate with him. You know, when your head coach can relate to you and your offensive coordinator can relate to you, you have a leg up now. Now there's not a question that I can't bring the head. Even if the offensive coordinator is not available for me, I can go right to the head coach, and the head coach can explain everything. Mm-hmm. That's an advantage of Will. That's an advantage that Brian Callahan has that Mike Vrabel didn't. Mike Vrabel's a hell of a coach, but Mike didn't play that position. He has someone that has coached that position with two damn good quarterbacks. One is a Hall of Famer, and it seems the other one's going to be trending toward that way if he can stay on the field. So that is valuable for Will Levis, that I can go directly to the source and get all of my questions answered. He couldn't do that last year.
And I think that's probably a big reason why Brian Callahan was hired as the next head coach.
Because he can relate to the quarterback.
Because he has the track record of developing young quarterbacks. That he did it with Joe Burrow. And again, I'm not saying that Will Levis is Joe Burrow. But let's say Joe Burrow was drafted into a situation where he didn't have that kind of support. Maybe we're not talking about Joe Burrow the way that we're talking about Joe Burrow now.
Last year.
Yes,
Jake Browning.
That's a great example. So that's where we're going to start today. 615-737-1025 is our phone number if you have a thought on that. Your reaction overall to what Brian Callahan had to say in his press conference earlier this week, and specifically what he had to say about Will Levis. We'll continue this conversation. 889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and in Tennessee to bet.
Happy Friday, everyone. The weekend is coming up, and there's going to be a lot of sports betting going on. So if you're going to do it, you need to do it with our partners, Zen Sports. And I want to tell you about the new sport, they are the new sports book here in Tennessee that brings sports betting to a whole new level. Literally, people, when you sign up for a Zen Sports account, you'll automatically earn up to $1,000. No danger first wager. If your first bet loses, you will be reimbursed for the amount of your bet up to $1,000. Zen Sports offers true odds on all parlays and boosted same-game parlays for all Tennessee sports teams. That means boosted up to 20% over other books in Tennessee. And there's even more good news, people. We all love good news. I sure do. Zen Sports offer a one-of-a-kind VIP rewards program. If you qualify, you'll earn monthly comps at sports events, concerts, you name it. Even sport book bonuses. The VIP program is by invite only, people. So if you feel that your Zen Sports play qualifies for the VIP consideration, check out the program details and apply at zensports.com/VIP. So what are you waiting for, bettors? The daily same game parlay boosts go quick. So get going and download their app at zensports.com today. That's Zen Sports, where betting just got better. And if you have any gambling problems, call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 years or older to bet here in Tennessee.
For Levis, how do you go about that process of like making him establish himself as the leader? Like, do you pull him aside, pour more time into him, or like how do you do that?
I want Will to be him. He's got to do it in his own way, and you can't make people do anything that's outside of their character. It doesn't come across as genuine. And I think Will does a really good job of staying true to who he is. And there's obviously things along the way that I think are that I'll think are important, and I'll make sure that I convey those to him. But I'm not going to ask him to go be anybody that he's uncomfortable being. I need Will to just be the best version of himself. And he's got a job to do as the leader of the offense, as a leader of the football team. And I think he understands that. And I think that's the biggest part, is understanding what your role is, and that you have to be visible. People have to see you. You have to make sure you're building the same relationships that I have to build as the head coach. You're building them with everybody across the team, because the team needs to see you and ultimately have a relationship where they believe in you. And I think that obviously went a long way doing that last year. In his time that he played as the starter, I think he started to realize how important it was. I've been very pleased with his demeanor, his actions as he started the offseason program. And again, we're in our first few days, but really excited about where he's headed in that role. And so again, we have a lot of resources here. I told all the quarterbacks the other day that one of the unique parts about playing quarterback in the NFL is you have a staff of people that have a ton of experience. We've got guys from all over the league on both sides of the ball. Use our intellectual property. Ask them questions. Talk to guys. And if you can find something that helps you, there's a lot of people here that are willing to do that. So I think that he understands that there's a seeking nature to where he's at right now, as well as trying to find out all the information he can from every which way he can find it.
That was Brian Callahan in his press conference earlier this week. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase. I'm just trying to put myself into Will Levis's shoes of, where he's at this point in his career, where there's a lot of unknown for us. There's still a lot of establishing that Will Levis has to do. But I'm trying to think of, if I'm Will Levis and I'm hearing that, they're probably breathing a little bit of a sigh of relief of like, that's my coach, and my coach has my back.
Yeah, but that you got to go out there and you got to perform. Brian Callahan said something in there that Will has to understand. Those same relationships that Brian makes, Will has to make too. Those same room Brian is in, Will has to enter those rooms as well. He can't make it one-sided. He can't just, be so offensive driven. Now, his priority is to lead the offense, but you must find time for everyone. It's like being a quarterback is like being a politician, but here's the difference. In the NFL world, we don't care who you are. If you can't play, we're going to tell you can't play. I don't care if we like you or we don't like you. If we for you or we're not for you. If you're our relative or not our relative. If you're not playing that quarterback position the right way, we're going to let you know. And eventually it might get you up out of that seat. Politicians, they stick with you no matter what. You can be leading them down the road to disaster. Some people just walk right along with you and don't care because you have them so wrapped up in what you're saying. Being an NFL quarterback is a politician, but the only difference is, as a constituent, if you ain't doing the things you need to be doing, we're going to let you know. Yeah. And then you're going to be out there. We ain't going to follow you foolishly. Or we're going to get the second guy in to come in and get the job done. I think Will, last year, the games that he played, I think he proved to people, he started gaining their respect. One, because of his toughness. He's a tough son of a gun. And guys appreciate that. Guys, in the world of, flopping and staying on the ground and, my toe hurts, so I got to miss 8 games, Will Levis is an anomaly.
He'll walk straight into the fire.
He's one of those guys that he has an old school mentality. Like, he's going to stand in there and he's going to fight with you. And that team respect that more than anything. And then he showed that he can play. So it's like, if you just continue to build on that, we're going to follow you. because we see in you the things that makes those quarterbacks great. We see some of those things in you. Now, obviously, you got to get better.
Right.
And you got to continue to progress as a quarterback. But we see some of those little things in you that is going to cause us to follow you. Because we know this ain't a facade. We know this ain't just lip service. Mm-hmm. You're putting in the work. You're doing what's being asked of you. And then you're going out there and you're performing.
That's the key. Like, you still got to play well.
Exactly. He has to play well no matter what. They can love you. Mm-hmm. They can respect you. But if you're not getting results, you're out of there.
Like, I think the Saints locker room adores Jameis Winston. Mm-hmm. Like, I think they
absolutely
love him.
But he's not a starter. He's not a starter.
Right. He's not a starting quarterback in the National Football League. So all of that being said with an asterisk and also with the second part of the conversation of it's got to show up on the field.
Yes.
Of you've got to win football games. And he's shown flashes of that. He at least showed us flashes of that last season. The comeback against Miami, his debut against Atlanta.
The way he played against Pittsburgh.
Even in a loss.
Exactly.
I thought he played pretty well against Pittsburgh, all factors considered with that absolute crap offensive line. So he made some mistakes.
Yes.
Bad offensive line or not, he made some mistakes. And rookies are going to make mistakes. And now here comes, okay, are those rookie mistakes over with? Have you learned from those mistakes? And it's as much as an important factor is the on-the-field play, because, of course, like, they're going to love you and adore you if you're winning games, just like the Patriots loved and adored Tom Brady, because it was like, we've got Tom, so we're good. Like, a certain sense of security there, a certain sense of we're going to win enough games as long as Tom's our quarterback. I don't think that we can understate the other factor of that, the things that we don't see and the things that we can't see behind the scenes, the things that Brian Callahan was just talking about of Will Levis stepping up and being a leader and also leading by example.
Yeah, those things are, things that behind the scenes that fans will not see. Even some people in the building may not see it. But those little small things go a long way. Sitting in a receiver's room with the receivers, pulling guys aside, talking with them, understanding them, not just from a football standpoint, understanding them just as people, knowing how to approach certain people. That's why you got to get to know them. That's why I say he has to cross the other side of the river, which means the defensive side. He has to always have a bridge from the offense to the defense where he can travel back and forth anytime he pleases. He has to, just like Brian Callahan has an open door policy, Will Levis has to have that same open door policy. He has to, because individuals are going to want to come ask him questions, whether you're on the offensive side of the ball or the defensive side of the ball. And you have to accept that as a leader. You can't just say, well, I'm for the offense. No, defense might have questions on things that you're doing, that they're seeing. They may see things that you don't see and tell you. So your door has to always be open for those guys. And you have to be inviting. Do your job, be a leader, but you always have to be inviting to everybody. That's what Brian Callahan means. Like, he has some of those things that I do, you got to do too, because you are the face. I'm the head coach. I'm the leader. I get it. But you are the face. You're going to end up being the face of this franchise, which in turns mean being the leader. So some of those things that I'm doing, some of those rooms that I got to walk into, people that I got to talk to, and I'm only talking about from a football standpoint, you have to be willing to go in those same rooms. You have to be willing to communicate, to sort of, vibe with them. Because if you don't, it's going to become one-sided. And then you're not going to have the support that you need from your team. You got to walk both, as politicians say, you got to go across both aisles.
Yeah, exactly.
You truly have to go across both aisles when you're a quarterback of a franchise.
There's a little bit of politicking involved in being a quarterback. Like, I'll go back to Ryan Tannehill's mentorship comments. Technically, he wasn't wrong.
No, but
but you're the
quarterback, yes.
And when you say things like that, they're going to get nitpicked and torn apart and overanalyzed.
Exactly. Like, they go ask the third-string quarterback that question. He can say that. Why? He's not the leader of the team.
Yeah.
So he can say that. But when that question is posed to the leader of the team, you got to have a better response than, no, it's not my, I'm not to be as many. Even though that may be true, you may think that. You can't say that. You are the leader. Mm-hmm. You are the mentor for this young man because you're the leader and everybody's watching you.
Yeah.
Everybody's looking at you. That's the part that Will is going to have to really, truly understand now. The football stuff is going to come for him, I believe. But he has to understand, like, everybody's counting. Everybody in this locker room, in this building, is counting on me to do my job at a level that is going to produce wins. That is a lot of pressure if you're not able to handle it.
And if you can't do it, then all of this is a moot.
Oh, it'll show if you can't do it. It'll show up.
That if you can't win football games, nobody cares how great of a leader you are. Nobody cares how many meetings you sit in. Nobody cares how much you prepare. So we'll see. Yeah. Like, we'll let the football do the talking, and we'll see throughout this season how many steps forward Will Levis truly has taken. But for now, that's all we got. Yeah. And we'll let the football do the talking in the fall. Want to get into some of your thoughts on this? 615-737-1025 is our phone number if you want to get in on the conversation. And our phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. One texter texts in, says, why would Rand hire a coach that doesn't want the quarterback that he just drafted? What you're saying makes no sense. I'm sure Levis wasn't scared that Callahan wouldn't like him. You don't think Rand did his due diligence to find someone that can work with the team that he's put together? Jesus.
It's not that, people. Whenever a new coach comes into a situation, he didn't draft you. He did not draft you. So he has to build that rapport and that relationship with you. And you want to try to build it as organically and as quickly as you can. Because there are some situations where the head coach walk in and you just not his guy. That's just the way it is.
And if Will Levis felt that way, I don't blame him. I'm talking about what Will Levis was feeling.
Exactly.
The anxiety that he could have been feeling throughout the coaching search. I'm not talking about what happened in real life.
Exactly. Every guy, when there's change, every guy needs to be on their P's and Q's.
Totally.
Everybody needs to walk in as if, my job is next. I need to prepare like I'm about to lose my job.
Like when Rand came in and he said something about Bud Dupree. He was like, we'll evaluate. Like the next morning, Bud Dupree was gone.
Exactly. So when new GMs or new head coaches come in, sometimes you may not be their guy. But you always, even though you've been in the league a long time, there's still that filling out phase between you and the head coach. Because frankly, yeah, he may have to work with you, but he may not like you. Y'all got to feel that, and y'all got to smooth all that stuff out. So it's just not. We just can't say, oh, it's just going to happen, or it's just like, oh yeah, don't worry about it. We got a new coach. Don't worry, the quarterback will be okay. No, it's not. It doesn't work that way. You have to build that relationship with the head coach, and the head coach has to build it with you. And it's not always going to be peachy creamy. Mm-hmm. It's not. So y'all have to find that sort of dance that y'all can dance together that's going to be beneficial for the whole team.
And to the texter's point, I don't think that Amy would have hired a coach
No.
that absolutely despised the quarterback. Nor do I think that the coach interviewing for a head coaching position would say, I absolutely hate the quarterback while in an interview.
Right now, I don't hate him, nor do I like him. I don't know him.
You can see something in him and say, okay, I can work with that. And
Absolutely.
Then once you start working with him, you're like, nah, I can't.
It's like, I've seen some good things, but his personality is just I just can't.
I want my guy.
Exactly. And that does happen.
It happens. It happens with GMs. It happens with coaches. It happens with owners. It happens all the time. Chip in Mount Juliet says, it's refreshing to hear pleasant media output from Callahan versus Vrabel. What I don't want to do is get into the habit of everything this guy does is awesome and everything that the last guy did was horrible. But I will say that was a very pleasant press conference.
Mm-hmm. But no,
there were a lot of not pleasant press conferences that Vrabel did.
But here's the thing. We're in honeymoon stage.
Exactly.
When Vrabel was in his honeymoon stage, everything sounded great. But then he got a few years into that relationship with just the media and everything else.
Losing?
Yeah, and it became not so great. He became a little crouchety. He became a little angry, a little, just. A little? Probably a lot towards some people. Yes, but he just became.
What are you doing with your hands, Joe?
Yeah, he just started going off on people. For what reason? I don't know. He just got tired. So right now, this is how it's supposed to be, people. It's supposed to be peachy creamy. come back to me when they've lost 2, 3 in a row. Hopefully that never happens, but more than likely it will happen when you lose 2 in a row, maybe even 3. Come to me after that and see how his press conferences sound then. Because right now, you're getting a good Brian Callahan. You're getting the Brian Callahan that ain't lost a game yet. He's 0-0. He ain't lost a game yet.
He's batting 1,000 right now.
Exactly, batting 1,000 right now. So you're getting a good, I feel good. I feel refreshed. Yeah, lose some games and see what kind of Brian Callahan you're going to get then.
And that's exactly kind of the point that I was making about Will Levis as well, is everything can sound great right now.
Absolutely.
Let's talk in November, and then we'll reevaluate.
Yeah.
Coming up next, I heard something from Charles Robinson when he was on with Robbie and Rexyard yesterday. I was on the floor. I simply passed away. And we'll get into that coming up next. Score big this spring with Lee Company and the Nashville Predators in the 10K Power Play giveaway. Enter for a chance to win a Kohler home generator or $10,000 toward Lee Company Home Services. That's right, a Kohler home generator or $10,000 toward Lee Company Home Services. So go online to leecompany.com/giveaway to enter. That is leecompany.com/giveaway in the 10K Power Play giveaway. Contest entries are accepted until Saturday, April 20th. Lee Company, all you need.
Hey, this is Derek Mason, and you've heard me talk about Dr. Lodge and his staff at Cool Springs MD for some time now. Those people over there are wonderful. Truly, they are. From Dr. Lodge to the nurses, everyone at that, at Cool Springs MD is wonderful. And I've shared how they help with imbalanced hormones and how they offer a comprehensive weight loss program that addresses the root cause of weight gain. But now, I want to tell you about a new laser they offer called Empowered Laser. Believe me, I used it and it works great. With this laser, Dr. Lodge and Cool Springs MD can help you turn back the clock and take control of your body. This laser is for multiple uses, okay? It's not just for one use. And I'm going to explain to everyone about this laser. Learn about the amazing new laser and how it stimulates your Kegels in 20 minutes. The only laser that indicates for mixed urinary stress incontinence, and hear about the tone feature, which I am using. The tone feature, a muscle stimulator that increases muscle production and toning in your stomach. Listen, people, I got 2 abs right now. I'm 50 years old. I'm going for those 6, so I got 4 more to go, okay? So here it is. The tone feature, a muscle stimulator that increases muscle production and toning in your stomach, thighs, love handles, arms, and more. Dr. Lodge and his team are ready to help you turn back the clock and take control of your body with the new Empowered Laser at Cool Springs MD. So visit their website, make your appointment at coolspringsmd.com today, people.
Number 3, the Patriots had another individual who said, hey, look around the quarterback workouts, their QB stack. Now it's early still. We're still talking about early April, but their QB stack could have McCarthy at the very top, like not as the third quarterback off the board, not as the second quarterback off the board, but the Patriots may actually like him as the first quarterback coming off the board, which to me is just I'm shocked by this, but as I reached out and started to hit up different teams and say, like, how is this real? How is this really happening? More and more individuals were just saying, look, when you really dive into the tape, he's doing NFL things on tape. And when he's put into situations where they need a play, they need something to happen, particularly these 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6 situations, 3rd and 5 plus, 3rd and 6 plus. He's coming through. He's turning his back on defenses way more consistently than basically every other quarterback at the top of this draft, meaning he takes snaps under center. He does play action. He just does things that when NFL evaluators are watching J.J. McCarthy, they're going, okay, that translates. Like, we know what that looks like on the NFL level versus a number of these quarterbacks that never turn their back on defenses and only take snaps out of shotgun.
I don't buy it. I don't buy it for a single second. There's not even an itty-bitty little tiny ounce in my body that believes that the New England Patriots view J.J. McCarthy as the number 1 quarterback in this year's draft. There is no way. No way.
Listen, if that is truly, hey, listen, you can't tell. I guess you can't tell people how to evaluate, quarterbacks or any position for that fact.
And they're much smarter people than I am, so I could be
But to have
wrong.
him as your supposedly, to have him as your number 1 quarterback, that means you, like, what are you? I heard him say underneath center and all that other stuff.
And he could do play action. What?
Play action. Like,
quarterback in the draft because he do play action?
There's a lot of quarterbacks that can do that.
Yeah, right.
There's a lot of quarterbacks that can go underneath center. I mean, I'm sure Caleb Williams go underneath center if he wants to. He can turn his back to play action. I'm sure Drake May can do it. I'm sure Daniels can do it as well. So what has caused, or what potentially has caused New England, what did they see to put him as their number 1 quarterback? I mean, listen, moves like that get you fired if it doesn't work. Mm-hmm. It gets you fired immediately if it doesn't work. Because if you got a chance to draft guys that have really proven their worth at the collegiate level, and I'm talking because we assume Caleb will go first. I'm talking Drake May and Daniels, guys that have proven like they can flat out play. You pass up those 2 if they're there for you, and you get J.J. McCarthy, and if it doesn't work, all y'all gone. Mm-hmm. Everybody's gone. So, I think he's a good quarterback. I've seen a lot of him. I've seen a lot of his play because him being in the Big Ten and me watching the Big Ten a lot. But it was nothing like, wow, like I got it, like, wow, this dude, he's a good quarterback. Now, maybe they think they can get even more out of him, like his ceiling is a little bit higher. Yeah. He's not a bad quarterback, but he's not, this great blue chip quarterback either. He's a good quarterback. And the bad part about it is that because of their offense, you don't know if Jim Harbaugh purposely didn't let him pass as much, or like because of the offense, or he just didn't think he could do it. Mm-hmm. So which one is? Because you're screaming he's this great quarterback.
Yeah.
But there was a game, I think it was Maryland or someone in the second half. He didn't throw the ball at all. And it was a tight game. Well, they ended up running away with it because they ended up running the football. Uh-huh. But it wasn't because of he didn't lose them games, but he didn't necessarily win them games either. Mm-hmm. They were a good team. They were a flat out good team. And they ran the football and played really good defense. And the quarterback he didn't mess the game up. I think he's a good quarterback, but when you start talking about the number 1 quarterback in the draft, I'm not sure about that.
And it makes me think, are the Patriots putting that out there to create some sort of smokescreen to say, oh, well, if I'm the Commanders, well, the Patriots view him as their number one quarterback. Do I need to start looking into J.J. McCarthy? Maybe it's a tactic for the Patriots to get a Drake May or a Jaden Daniels to fall to them at 3, where perhaps if J.J. McCarthy goes higher than any of us expect, that there's a better quarterback that fall. I truly do not know. Overall, I think it's a good thing for the Titans.
Yeah.
Because the more quarterbacks that go before 7 pushes better players that aren't quarterbacks to the Titans at 7. That pushes a Joe Alt potentially to you at 7, or a Malik Neighbors to you at 7, or that might afford you more comfort to trade down to 11 or 12 to some of these quarterback needy teams in Minnesota or Denver. But number one quarterback in the draft, like, we are in silly season. We are in anyone can say anything at this point in the draft calendar, and it checks. Like, and it'll, like, you can say the craziest thing. Like, last year was the S2 cognition score thing that everyone was like, well, CJ Stroud's not a very good quarterback because the S2 cognition score said so. And this time last year, when everyone was placing money on Will Levis as the number one quarterback taken off the board because someone on Reddit said so. Like, we are in weird season, silly season. We are truly in the twilight zone. And it'll only get worse the closer we get to the draft. So this is a warning that I'm heeding to all Titans fans out there of there's going to be a lot of things that are being said. Believe 0% of it.
Yeah, you can't believe any of it until don't believe any of it until you actually see it happen.
Exactly.
You know, if you're going, whether J.J. McCarthy is number one on the New England Patriots board or not, if it is, like you said, I think it helps the Titans because if these quarterbacks are going 1, 2, 3, 4, then that pushes one of the receivers and possibly even one of the tackles right to you where you can make a decision, or 2 of the tackles. And like you said, you can make a decision, well, you know what? I can move back a few spots, get some picks, and still be able to get one of the 2 guys that I want. But if you are a GM or a head coach, anybody, and you're allowing another team to dictate what you do, and what I mean is this: if you allow New England to New England's scouting and grade on J.J. McCarthy to affect you,
it'd be moronic.
It'd be moronic. Yeah. Like, why would you do that? Like, if you don't have him scouted in the top 3, you shouldn't put him in the top 3 because New England just put him in the top 3. You know, New England don't have a good track record the last couple of years with quarterbacks, okay? So I would
with drafting in general.
I wouldn't look at them for anything when it comes to drafting. I wouldn't. If they got J.J. McCarthy number 1, you know what? I'm running away.
Good.
Good. Y'all have number 1. I'm going the opposite direction because what y'all been doing in the draft ain't been working, and I can tell. So, like you said, a lot of this is just let's throw something at the board and see what sticks.
Yeah.
And if it sticks, it'll mess everybody else up.
We're going to catch up with Elliot Friedman coming up next. We'll get his perspective, the national perspective of what the Predators have done, how we went from Barry Trotz saying, hold your expectations to now this being a playoff team. So we'll catch up with Elliot coming up next. We'll have Ask D-Mase in 30 minutes. So get those questions in for D-Mase. Plus, we have got Predators playoff tickets to give away. We'll do that next hour. So be listening for your opportunity to win a pair of tickets to a Predators playoff game, the first Preds home playoff game. But first, a quick update from Augusta. Your update from Augusta is brought to you by Burger Republic. Go try their limited time green jacket burger for a true master's experience. An update from Augusta. In the lead is Bryson DeChambeau at an even par through 3. Tied with Max Homa, 2 under par, and Scotty Scheffler in 3rd. That is your Augusta update, brought to you by Burger Republic. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 1025, 1063, The Game, and The Game Nashville app. We're streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live every single day. And we're broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. We'll get to ask D-Mase in 30 minutes, so get those questions in for D-Mase. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Predators in action tonight at Chicago. Puck drop at 7:30. And joining us now is Elliot Friedman, 32 Thoughts Podcast and Sportsnet. Elliot, it's great to catch up with you on a Friday this week. And it is a much better conversation this week versus last week because I had to place a little bit of blame on you. We talked to you, Elliot, and then that night, the Predators ended their 18-game point streak against the Arizona Coyotes. And then last week I said, Elliot, I'm gonna hold you accountable for that. And then they turned around and beat the St. Louis Blues and put themselves right in a position to clinch a playoff spot. So, Elliot, you've redeemed yourself.
Yeah, I told you not to worry, Carolyn. I told you everything was going to be okay. And I never had a doubt. I haven't always been right. I've been wrong a lot. But I'm really happy I was right about this one because Nashville is one of the great cities in the NHL, and I love to see it in the playoffs.
And we love to see it too. I just wanted your perspective, national perspective, because we've obviously been talking about it from a local perspective, hyper-focused on the Predators, just where they were at the beginning of the season. When Barry Trotz was telling people, Predators fans, look, be patient with us. This is going to take some time. Now fast forward to April, and the Predators find themselves in a playoff spot with a lot of encouragement about what this team can do in the playoffs. So just kind of your perspective on Andrew Brunette and Barry Trotz in year one, the Predators, where they started, and now where they find themselves.
Well, this year is a big win for them, Carolyn. There were a lot of skeptics. Not just in Nashville, but around the league. You remember a month into the season, you guys were in 31st place, and it didn't look great. Things could have really collapsed after that whole U2 thing. I think that, to me, as much as anything else, tells me that the players that have been assembled there are real pros, because I've been in situations where there were issues between the employees and the managerial class, and it just blows up and doesn't go anywhere good. But that was turned into a positive, which I think is very important. And, I think that they've earned the spot that they're in, and I think that they've really impressed people. I think Brunette will definitely get votes for Coach of the Year. I think he's going to be in the conversation. I could see Trotz getting votes for GM of the Year, but that one's a little different because that one's voted on after the second round of the playoffs, so it tends to be people who are still standing at that time, although it doesn't 100% have to be the case. I think Yossi is definitely going to be in both the Hart and the Norris conversations. Another guy who I think Saros will be in the Vezina conversations. And, I think Philip Forsberg, he's not going to win any awards, but this year people have been reminded what a good player he is. And the other one I heard is I hear a lot of for is Ryan O'Reilly. Just a lot of the reason that you guys signed him, he's had an excellent season.
I think a lot of Predators fans have been reminded about Philip Forsberg as well. And I remember when Barry Trotz signed Ryan O'Reilly, a lot of the reaction was, well, why bring in a guy who's older and expensive? Didn't we just unload a lot of older and expensive players? And Barry Trotz said, trust my system, trust the culture that I want to.
Well, he's a pro. He really is. He's really a smart, intelligent, mentally strong, prepared player. He's always prepared. He knows what he's doing. He always has a plan. He leads by example. And the other thing too is, age is just a number right now, Carol, and that's what I like to tell people. And, you know, it's how you prepare. It's how you take care of yourself. And he's really good at that. He's always prepared. He takes good care of himself. He's smart. He's not the fastest. I mean, that's the thing. In a game right now, which is so much speed, he's not the fastest guy, but he always knows where to be, and he always knows where the play is going. And I think and when you have young players who you're hoping take the next step, you're hoping that they see the way he approaches the game, and it becomes like osmosis. You know, he is the guy that you learn from. And I think that's definitely happened. The other thing, too, is especially at the center position, when you've got young players who are learning, you know, guys like Novak, some of the other young centers you have, it's nice to have someone on an off night for everyone or in a tough situation. You can say, you know what, I need this kind of a person here. And O'Reilly is that guy. He can take the pressure off some of your learning players. He can put them in positions where they can learn on a more gradual curve. On nights that go wrong, he can really stabilize things. He eats a lot of big minutes that eventually you want your young players to get to, but they're not going to be ready for all the time. He's that kind of guy.
We're talking with Elliotte Friedman. Check out his podcast, 32 Thoughts Podcast. Now, Elliotte, there was a article written by Adam Vingan, who does a wonderful job. You can check it out on Sportnet. And it was entitled, "Did the Nashville Predators Peak a Little Too Early?" And he just sort of backed it up with some numbers, comparing them to their 18-point streak compared to the last 6 or 7 games this year. And the numbers have been a lot different. Do you believe in your years and in your time covering sports and playing hockey? Do you believe the whole peaking too soon theory?
I don't know about that. You know, Derek, if they hadn't gotten better, they wouldn't be anywhere near the playoffs. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if you can argue, Derek, that they peaked too soon. They peaked kind of when they had to. If they didn't get going at that time, they were out. So I don't know how you could look at it and say they peaked too early before the playoffs, because they were far from guaranteed to make the playoffs. I just think when you have a run like that one, you're going to come down to earth. 82 games is a lot. Nobody's perfect throughout them. You know, if the run started at the season, I wouldn't expect them to go 76-0-6. Like, I just think that doesn't happen. You're going to have stinky parts to your year. And, you know, I just think they were due to come down a bit. But, you know, the key thing is, Derek, is I think they've stabilized. You know, sometimes you come off a streak like that and maybe you lose 7 in a row. Like, that hasn't happened. And, you know, they stabilized. And I think a lot of us also thought that if they get in, Derek, they'd be the 8th, the wild card 2. And they're going to be wild card 1. And that's pretty impressive. I can't imagine, you know, a month into the season, like I said, when they were in 31st place, anyone would have imagined, like, you would have thought if they were getting into the playoffs, they were sneaking in by the hair of their chinny chin chin. Like, they were not going to be making it the way they are, which is very comfortably over the first team that's going to miss the playoffs, either Vegas or more likely St. Louis.
Now, also, Elliotte, in your time, in your experience talking with coaches in this league, because also this is another question that we talked about this week, Willy, Caroline, and I, because now that they've, you know, found themselves in a playoff, they got the X next to their name. When do you start resting guys? You don't want to rest them too soon because you want to go into the playoffs with some type of momentum. You don't want these guys to have too many days off. So, you know, you talking with other coaches, what have they said is the best way to sort of approach that? Because that's where the Nashville Predators are at now. More than likely, they'll get the number 1 seed, but it doesn't hurt to have a few extra days of rest.
Well, I just think, like, you guys have a pretty unique schedule. You guys, Derek, are one of the first teams to finish. You play, I mean, you have Chicago tonight, and I saw that Saros isn't. I think that was actually really smart. They didn't take Saros to Chicago. They took him they kept him home today, and they're going to have, I guess, Troy Grosnick is going to back up Lankinen tonight. I think that's a really smart move. So you guys have Chicago tonight, you have Columbus tomorrow, back-to-back, and then you have Pittsburgh on Monday, and then you could have 4 or 5 days. You'll have 4 days off for sure, because the playoffs start next Saturday on the 20th, although we don't know yet who's playing when. I'm pretty sure Toronto's playing next Saturday, but since you're not playing them, I don't know where you're going to be. Now, this is the way I would look at it if I was in their shoes, Derek. Their top guys, you play one of the 2 games this weekend. I mean, you guys are locked in. You're going to pretty much. You know, you're going to finish. It looks like you guys are going to finish 7th. You know, you're going to face probably. It looks like you're going to play Vancouver. The way I look at it, I shouldn't say you guys are locked in. You could finish. In theory, you could finish 8th. But you know, the way I would look at it is, if you're going to rest anybody, it's going to be tonight or tomorrow. That's what you're going to do. And the reason I don't think they rest anyone Monday, Derek, is because you're going to have all those days off. If you play guys tonight and tomorrow and then don't play them Monday, that's a week at least. I don't think you want that. I think you want I think you want your players to play Monday. And the other thing about that, Derek, is, and I don't know what the rules were in football when you played, but that could be a huge game for Pittsburgh. That could be a game where could make or break the Penguins and other teams for the playoffs. And I know that in the NHL, I think teams kind of respect that. Like, there was a situation, I can't remember if it was last year or 2 years ago, where Toronto had a cap problem and they might not have had an NHL goalie to play a game if the league wasn't willing to give them, wasn't willing to approve a roster move they were going to make. And basically what the Leafs told them was, look, you guys can do whatever you want, but this game matters tonight in the playoff race. And would you want us to have a guy who has never played in a game before in a night that matters to the playoff race, or would you rather we do it tomorrow when it doesn't matter? And that's kind of the way the league governs itself, is in games that matter, you tend to dress your best lineup you can. Ultimately, Nashville has to do what's best for the Predators, but I look at them being done on Monday, and I think they're going to want guys to play Monday and not be off for a week.
Which makes sense.
Yeah.
Elliot Friedman is with us, Sportsnet and 32 Thoughts podcast. Elliot, you mentioned earlier UC Saros could be a Vezina contender.
Yeah.
Do you think that voters would be willing to look past the first half of the season in which UC Saros really was not playing like UC Saros was not playing like a Vezina contender? And is that maybe a testament to how he's played coming down this stretch the past couple of months?
Well, first of all, the people who vote for the Vezina are the general managers. So in theory, they should be a lot smarter than the media, Carolyn. So what I would say is that they would ignore the first beginning of the season. I think Hellebuck's going to be hard to beat this year. My guess is he's likely the guy. But I still think, I don't think the first part of the season is going to matter. I think they look at the full package, and plus everybody knows Saros and respects Saros. I don't think the first part of the year means a thing.
I think Predators fans saw on full display the other day just how freaking good Connor Hellebuck is. Last one from me, Elliot. Arizona. This Coyote situation. It came out earlier this week that there are talks about moving the franchise to Salt Lake, and then those conversations escalated very quickly. You reported several little tidbits about how the NHL could just dissolve the Coyotes as a team. Walk us through what has happened and what might come next for the Arizona Coyotes.
Well, I think, Carolyn, this is farther along than everybody wants to admit because there are lawyers involved. And lawyers look at the world in a very binary way. It's either done or it's not done. And until it's done, it's not done. And they don't like to talk about anything that's not done. So I think they're a lot farther along, but it's not complete. I believe the hope was that they could announce it next week, the move, after the Coyotes finish their season. They finish on Wednesday night against Edmonton at home. But I don't know if it's going to be done at that time. There's a lot of lawyers and papering involved, and it takes time. So I'm not sure that it will happen, but they're working on it. I think what you're going to see is possibly the Coyotes organization declared inactive, which means that the Coyotes will be kind of like into a stasis. They're going to say that, look, the team is being paused or suspended operations or whatever they want to call, and the contracts of the players will be purchased by Ryan Smith, who owns the Utah Jazz, and the team will be moved there at some point. And, I just think that the arena situation became untenable. Even if they won the auction, by their own admission, they thought the earliest they could have a new arena was the fall of 2027. And I just don't think anyone wanted to play in Mullet Arena for 3 more years at a minimum. So it became a situation where they wanted to move, where they said this is the best solution. Ryan Smith is a person that the NHL is very excited to have. He's very excited to be part of the group. I understand he's committed a lot of money to upgrading the arena, and they're supposed to get a new arena as part of the Salt Lake City Olympic bid, which I believe is for 2030. It's either 2030 or 2034. I can't remember which one. So, they really like him, and he's enthusiastic. So they felt it was the best solution to a problem they felt couldn't continue. And that's why we are where we are.
Now, Elliot, when you say, because they're in this transition, but when you say suspend or pause, what do you are you saying that the team will not play, but this individual will buy the team and then still pay the contracts, but they're not playing?
No. They will play.
Okay.
Basically, what happened is, they're not. Derek, they're not purchasing the name or the logo or the trademarks or anything like that. They're basically, the league is buying. It's kind of a unique deal, Derek. The league is buying the team from the current owners of the Coyotes, and they're going to give a new team to Utah. It'll be the same players, but it'll be different name, obviously, a whole new history. That's kind of the way it works.
Okay. Has that happened before where the NHL has to buy a team? And I'm only asking because I haven't followed the NHL that heavy to know whether there was a team being bought by the league or not.
Derek, it's not a stupid question, and there's nothing wrong with that, the way you're asking it all. I mean, I totally understand. When Atlanta went to Winnipeg, the team was sold directly by the Thrashers to Winnipeg. That was a $110 million sale plus an extra $60 million relocation fee. So I think that one was $170 million. This one's going to be a little different. The league is going to buy the Coyotes for about $1 billion, and then they're going to sell the team to, or it's almost like a half expansion, I think is the way someone described it to me this morning, Derek, was like a half expansion.
Okay.
The league is going to buy the team from Arizona for $1 billion, around there, but I've heard $1 billion, and they're going to sell the team or give a new team to Utah. Some people have reported it as $1.3 billion. I've heard 1.2, but it's in that area for sure. So that's kind of that's how it's all going to work. So it's a bit unique. It's a bit different. But I think because of, technically the Coyotes are going to be, like I said, inactive or in stasis. They kind of have to do it this way. And also, I think the current Coyotes owner, he's a bit of a wild card, and the NHL wants to deal with him directly.
Hence, Coyote Wild, Arizona Wild.
There you go.
There you go.
Yeah. Elliot Friedman, 32 Thoughts Podcast and Sportsnet. Elliot, always appreciate you for joining us. Thanks for being flexible with us this week, and we'll catch up next Thursday.
All right, guys. Take care.
All right. Appreciate it. Elliot Friedman, he is the very best. Willy will join us in about 30 or so minutes. We'll break down Andrew Burnett's approach to these next two games at Chicago tonight, back home on Saturday, a back-to-back with 3 games left in the season when you've already clinched the playoffs. We will get into Ask D-Mase coming up next. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Get those questions in for D-Mase. We'll take your calls. We'll take your texts. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, hey, tune into 94.9 The Fan today as Vanderbilt baseball takes on Texas A&M. The time in here is incorrect, so I'm not even going to read it. But Vanderbilt baseball brought to you by Smoky Mountain Tops, your countertop experts. Visit SmokyMountainTops.com.
D-Mase. He played 15 years in the NFL.
Quick throw. Touchdown, Derek Mason.
He had over 12,000 receiving yards.
Midfield, and there he goes. 80 yards for the touchdown.
And now you can ask him, anything. Have a question about football or life? Now's your time to ask D-Mase.
We'll welcome you in.
Now on Caroline, Willy, and
D-Mase.
on 102.5 and 106.3, The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Ask D-Mase. Get those questions in for Derek Mason. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Also coming up later this hour, we've got some Preds playoff tickets to get away, so stick around for your opportunity to win a pair of tickets to the Preds' first home playoff game at Bridgestone Arena. Let's get into those questions for D-Mase. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. If you have a question for D-Mase, we'll take your calls and we will take your texts. We'll kick it off with one texter who asked D-Mase, outside of the top 3 receivers, Rome Odunze, Malik Neighbors, and Marvin Harrison Jr., who is your favorite receiver in this year's draft?
Man, I really don't. Honestly, I really don't have a favorite guy. I look at the top 3 guys, and I really haven't went past, 3 or 4 guys, because I don't see this draft as I think it's top heavy, but I do believe they got a lot of good players in regards to wide receivers. But I've spent my time looking at the top 2, 3, possibly even 4 wide receivers. I haven't ventured down taking a guy outside of that. I was looking at guys that the Titans could potentially take in the first round. Now there's other guys out there that are pretty good. The other kid from Washington, the kid that played alongside of Odunze, he's pretty good. Obviously, Leggett is pretty good. And TD has said a lot of good things about Leggett. Obviously, Xavier McDaniel, his 40 time. Worthy is Xavier Worthy.
Xavier Worthy.
He's
the one he ran
4.21. So he has a good 40 time. His counterpart on the other side, really good receiver.
A.D. Mitchell.
Yeah, A.D. Mitchell. There's depth to this, but I think there's a distinct difference between the top 2 or 3 guys, possibly even 4, and then the rest of the bunch.
And it is interesting because out of the top 3, I view there's like a second tier of receivers, whether it's like Brian Thomas Jr. or A.D. Mitchell, Xavier Leggett from South Carolina. And then once you get past there, I think there's still really quality receivers that you can find. Travis Texan says, D-Mase, could you win in a fight with Big Sexy? Michael McCarron.
On ice or just like?
Let's say both.
Out in the street. I wouldn't win on ice because I can't skate, so I'm done. As soon as I get on ice, I'm done. Yeah, you take me. Now
you touch me lightly and I'm down.
Now, if we're just like on concrete or something, I may have a chance there. I may have a chance.
I like your chances.
Yeah, I may have a chance. That's why I go to the gut. We ain't talking about I ain't trying to hit the face. His arms too long.
Sucker punch.
I'm trying to get inside, like Tyson get inside the body, gut with tall guys like that.
Take advantage of
Once you
your
get in the
size.
inside, hit him with a couple gut shots, bring him down to your size.
Dunzo.
And then it's done.
Rabbit
it's a
shots
wrap.
for the
exactly.
win.
It's a wrap right there. I don't fight clean. Let's just say that. I don't fight clean.
Should we consider this an invitation to fight with Big Sexy?
Nah. I'm not gonna say it. I'll pass on that one.
Okay.
Only if I had to. He was between me and the restroom, and I had to use it real bad. Then I'll fight him. But other than that, no, I'm going the other way.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Adam in Portland is on the line with a question for D-Mase. What's up, Adam?
Hey, Caroline. Hey, all right, D-Mase. So
Yes.
Is there anybody, because I'm just kind of curious about this because of your experience, is there anybody that has you on bust alert coming up with this draft? Because you guys talk about it every day. Like, we're all like, I don't know, at this point, especially in the next coming week or two, just ready to get it over with at that point. But I know you've seen enough players where you're like, is there anybody that just makes you like, I don't know about him? Like, you wouldn't personally draft him because he just gives you a feeling. Is there anybody that does that to you?
J.J. McCarthy is one, and thank you.
Thanks, Adam.
Adam. J.J. McCarthy is one. I'm not saying that he would be a bust, but I think bust is a term I think you use for an individual that is drafted extremely high and then doesn't, pan out. You can't call a third-round draft pick or a fourth-round draft pick a bust. You draft him in the third and the fourth round for a reason. You thought that there was still growth that needed to happen. And some guys just don't get there. Some guys do get there. So I would say possibly J.J. McCarthy, not because I think he's a bad player. And Adam's talking about this year's draft, right?
I believe so, yeah.
So not because I think he's a bad player, but if you reach for him and he ends up just being okay, that is a bust to me because you reach too far to draft him in the top 5 and he ends up not being the quarterback that you thought he was, so much so that you may have to replace him after a few years. Not that he's a bad quarterback. He's just one of those, you're not going to win much with him, and it's better to sort of move on from him. Not that you got to cut him, but you need to get somebody else in that position. If he's drafted high, he has the potential to be that because maybe not everybody has him that high, and it's that one team, New England. It's perceived that New England has him as a top quarterback, and if that is indeed the case, and you draft him that high, and it doesn't work out, it's considered a bust because you reached for him to draft him that high.
I also think a true bust is one that you don't really see coming. Like
Yeah.
if I can say today that guy's going to be a bust, then yes, you can still consider them a quote-unquote bust, but also I would view like Corey Davis and the Titans. I don't think the Titans would have taken him 5th overall if they thought that we would only get a few years of production out of him. We wouldn't sign him to a second contract.
And you consider him, I consider him a bust from this reason. Not that he didn't play good football.
But 5th overall pick football?
5th overall pick football, no. He played more like 3rd, 4th, 5th round type of football, which would have been great. But because you were drafted 5th overall, those numbers don't add up.
Where you're drafted matters.
Exactly. Where you're drafted matters and your production. They expect production when you're drafted that high. They expect immediate production and consistent production. And he didn't have immediate production, and he didn't have that sustained production. He was good, but not fifth overall good.
Whenever he was drafted, what was the perception? Was it, why would you do that? Or was it, this is our wide receiver one
I
for the next 10 years?
I think Titan fans were like, wow.
Like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah, you reach for him. Why? Because he didn't run. You didn't, because he had a foot injury too, I believe. That's what the case was, why he didn't run. And nobody knew truly how fast he was. Nobody truly knew anything because he didn't do much because he was, sort of rehabbing from this foot injury. I believe that's what it was. So I think when he was drafted, I know because I think we were on the air, Jared, Floyd, and I, and when they drafted him, it was like, wow, okay, like you reached that high to draft him in the 5th overall when he didn't do anything like workouts or anything, and you drafted him that high. That's like, wow, So when you draft a guy and his production, it does matter because if you draft him 5th overall, his production need to match it. And Corey's, he was a solid player, but his production didn't match his slot in the draft.
Eric is on the line with a question for D-Mase. Go ahead, Eric. What's up?
Yeah, before I get to my question, I got a bad joke. This is kind of a real corny one that I heard recently, so I hope you like it. What is another name for a Russian grave?
A Russian grave?
Yeah.
I don't know.
A communist plot.
A communist park.
Plot.
Oh, plot. Oh. Okay, I get it.
Not your best, Eric, but I appreciate it.
Not your best, but okay.
I know.
Can't always have a fastball.
Well, yeah. Well, I know. They're not all great, but these are just ones. Some of them I make up, and some I've just heard. So that was one I've heard. But, yeah, I got a feeling that one might land with a thud. But here's my question. I'm sure you've heard this within the last day or two. It's just ridiculous. It's just insane. Of course, Tom Brady was talking about somebody on the podcast, and he was asked about would he come back about making another return. He said, well, he probably couldn't do it because supposedly his owner, I don't know if he signed the contract yet or not, because if he's an owner, he can't do that. But he said if they probably wouldn't let him play, but he would not be opposed to coming back sometime this season. I mean, And there are other people starting this, well, Brady could come back, or they saying they would sign him if you got an injury in training camp or late in the season. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that. It's just insane. I just laugh at it. It's hilarious. I mean, you would think he would just want to enjoy retirement, but even though at 45, he's talking about being in shape and he's enjoying the itch to play. I just want to get your thoughts on that. Y'all take care and have a great weekend.
Thanks for your call, Eric.
Thank
have a good
you,
one.
Eric. This is the time of the year where even if you are Tom Brady, the GOAT, endorsements out of the Watusi. I mean, you getting ready to, be in the booth. Is it Fox?
Fox, is he going to be in the booth? I feel like he's been putting this off for a while.
So,
but I've also heard that he's going to flex out Greg Olson in his position. So that's where Tom's going to take over.
So,
Tom's feeling like, I don't want to do
so
this.
he's, even with all this stuff he has on his plate, even with all that, he wants to be relevant in a sense. Not Tom is relevant, period, because of what he was able to do in the game. But you start to realize, like, once I leave the game, like after that initial 3, 4, 5 months where everybody's talking about you and everybody's wondering and all this, and then you go into a year and ain't nobody saying anything about you, you get kind of sad. You get kind of lonely, don't you? Kind of sad and lonely, Like, why aren't they talking about me? Even though you are the GOAT. You got 29 championships. I mean, you got everything that every player would want. You have it all. But they ain't talking about me. Ain't nobody saying anything about me. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to throw it out there. Yeah, I wouldn't mind coming back. Now the buzz. Everybody's talking about Tom again. And Tom's just sitting back. Tom, I mean, if he comes back, great. I don't think he's coming back. I just think he wants his name. He wants to be talked about again. When you've been in that position for so long, where you've been just like, you've been the eye for everybody. Everybody's been watching you, talking about you, just gushing over you for 20 years. And then all of a sudden it goes away because they don't see you no more. You're not on the field. You're not doing anything. You get kind of lonely. Tom's kind of lonely. Not to say he doesn't have a bunch of things to do, because he probably does.
Yeah.
But that one thing that fed him, like it feeds our athletes, that attention.
Tom knows what he's doing.
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. He knows exactly what he's doing.
He's just bored. He just wants to stir the pot.
He wants to be talked about.
Yeah.
And I know people are saying, no, don't say that about you're right. He does have championships. He is the GOAT. But is anybody talking about him? Was anybody talking about him prior to him saying, I'm coming back? No. Not because he's not the GOAT, but because he's just not in the forefront of anything.
He's going to be 47 by the time the season starts. 47.
I wouldn't, you know what? I wouldn't
If
put
anyone could do it, he could do it.
I think he can do it. I think that there are a lot of quarterbacks. If you still are, you still can spin the ball. I think in today's football, you can play. Why? Because you can't hit quarterbacks. You can't do the things that you used to do. So the longevity of a quarterback extends. So a Tom Brady at 47 can come back. As long as he can spin the ball, more than 50 yards, he can come back because of the way the rules are for NFL quarterbacks now. So any guy that can play, if a team wants you and you're 35, 40 years old, you're more likely to come back now than you were 20 years ago, 30 years ago.
More Ask D-Mase coming up next. So get those questions in. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Tune in to 93.3 Classic Hits today as the Nashville Sounds take on the Memphis Redbirds on the road for a doubleheader. Pre-game at 4:50 p.m., first pitch at 5:05. Coverage also available on 93.3 Classic Hits app and at 93.3classichits.com. Sounds Baseball presented by Twin Peaks Family Leisure and Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase. We're brought to you by Zen Sports. Start earning cash rewards on your bets today. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and in Tennessee to bet.
What's going on, everybody? You've heard me tell you about Dr. Lodge and his staff at Cool Springs MD for some time. I've shared how they help with imbalanced hormones and how they offer a comprehensive weight loss program that addresses the root cause of weight gain. But now I want to tell you about a new laser they offer called the Empower Laser. I can talk about it because I've experienced it, people. With the laser, Dr. Lodge and Cool Springs MD can help you turn back the clock and take control of your body. And I've turned back the clock on my body and I've taken control. So learn about this new amazing laser and how it stimulates your Kegels in 20 minutes. Listen, people, this laser does more than just one thing. It's multifaceted, okay? And I'm going to tell you some other things that this laser does. It's the only laser indicated for mixed urinary stress incontinence. And hear about the tone feature, which I used, a muscle stimulator that increases the muscle production and tone in your stomach, thighs, love handles, arms, and more. I used it for my stomach. I got 2 abs. I'm trying to get 4 more, people, for the summer. So if that's what you're trying to do, right along with your abs and your thighs and everything else, and women, your Kegels, Dr. Lodge and his team are ready to help you turn back the clock and take control of your body with the new Empower Laser at Cool Springs MD. So visit them, make an appointment at coolspringsmd.com today.
get back into your questions for D-Mase. 615-737-1025 is the phone number if you have a question for D-Mase. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, we're broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Also, we are just minutes away from giving away a pair of tickets to see the first Preds home playoff game. So be listening for your opportunity to win. Let's get back into your questions for D-Mase. Tommy asks, D-Mase, how pissed would you be if you signed with a team that had another star receiver and then they released the star receiver, hence Samuel signing before Diggs' release in Buffalo?
So how would I feel if I was a marquee receiver and they traded me away before?
If you signed with a team and that had a star receiver.
And then they got rid of him.
And
how
then
would
they
I
traded
feel?
the star receiver, like Curtis Samuel signing with Buffalo, and then Buffalo trading away.
I guess it would be sort of there would be two types of feel here. One, it would be, okay, we lost a good player. Like, man, our receiver room just got depleted. That's what, one of my thoughts would be. It's like, man, now who are they going to go get, to replace him? Then my other thought is, all right, so be it. It's time to roll. Now I can take on that leadership role. I can, be the lead dog. And if that's something that you have been wanting and you've been preparing for, then great. If you haven't, then you're going to worry about it. You're going to be anxious. I'm nervous that now you potentially go from being the sidekick to the main guy, So you can sort of approach it in two ways. Me, it's just like, all right, I get it. This is the business. Hated that he's gone, but now I got to step into that role, and hopefully somebody else underneath me can step up as well in this receiver room.
I do feel like you kind of have to have the mentality of, he's gone, all right, now it's on me.
Yeah, you have to. I mean, listen, this is a cutthroat business, and this is the business that, what have you done for me today? Mm-hmm. Not yesterday. What have you done for me today? And you have to take that approach as a player. Like, listen, we're friends. I get it. And, once we step off the field, we're good. But once we're on the field, this is competition. This is healthy competition. And I'm doing whatever I need to either be a starter or be that number one guy. You're my friend, but I'm trying to beat you out.
Yeah.
That's point blank.
I got to take care of me.
Exactly. I got to take care of me and my family. It doesn't mean I don't like you as a person. I don't, consider you a true friend. I do. But we play the same position, and there's only one football, So I'm trying to get in. I'm trying to, like I tell Traylon, on these airs, if he's ever listening, create your space. Take your space. Take your spot. The whole game, musical chairs, and they playing that music. You going around that circle. You better take your spot before it's...
You need a chair.
Exactly. You better take your chair before it's gone.
Wes in Hermitage is on the line for the question for D-Mase. Go ahead, Wes.
Happy Friday, guys. I got to start with the dad joke really quick, real fast. What do you get when you drop a piano down a mine shaft?
Never mind, I guess. I don't know.
A flat minor.
What'd you say?
A flat minor.
That's a good one.
That's a good one.
That's a good one, Wes.
You made up for Adam.
I told you, man. Danny's just waiting on his teammate.
Well, not Adam. Who called in with the joke?
Eric,
not Adam. Eric. Yeah, you made up for Eric. Eric's was kind of...
Hey, there we go. My question is about the one oddball wide receiver on our team that nobody has any idea what to expect from in Traylon Burks. Mm-hmm. So this is my question. It's year 3. He's basically done nothing the first 2 years except for show just a little bit of promise when he's actually on the field, but not very much. Mm-hmm. My question is Traylon Burks' third season, is he playing to prove to the Titans that he deserves to be on this team? Or is he at this point proving to the entire NFL that he deserves to be playing football? Because if he doesn't do anything this season, what team is actually going to want him?
Yeah, you're right.
Call,
Thank
Wes.
you, Wes. I appreciate that. Yeah, this season for Traylon is a big season. It's a put up or move to the side type of season. Either you show us what you can do or move over and let one of these other young guys get the job done, or we're going to move you over and let one of these other young guys get the job done. So, yes, this is a prove-it year for him, not only for this team, but for the rest of the league. If indeed this is what you truly want, because you asked that question yesterday, Caroline, does he truly want it? And no one can answer that question but Traylon. I mean, people in the building can, sort of look at him as he walks through the building and go about his business. They probably can tell, but nobody truly knows but Traylon whether he wants it or not. So, to me, he has to take what he wants. If he wants a starting role on his team, he got to go take it. They've given him opportunities, and listen, for better or for worse, for good or bad or whatnot, it just hadn't worked out to this point. He's shown some things that we like, but then he's also not on the field as much because of these sort of freak injuries and the concussions. So this year is sort of like the defensive back last year. Fulton.
Farley?
Yeah, Fulton. This for 3 years, Fulton was like injury prone. He showed exactly. He showed some things, but he was more injury prone than anything else. He had to prove that he was worth, a spot. He didn't prove it last year, so he's not here. Same thing goes for Traylon Burks. You got to prove it. You got to prove you deserve a spot on this team. Take it. That's what they want you to do. They want you to take it. Now, do you want it? That's the question.
All right. Willy Donick will join the show coming up next. But first, an update from Augusta. Your leaderboard update from Augusta is brought to you by Burger Republic. Go try their limited-time green jacket burger for a true master's experience. Update from Augusta. Bryson DeChambeau, Scotty Scheffler, Max Homa, and Nikolai Hogard, I don't know if I pronounced that correctly, are all tied for first, 6 under, in round 2. That is your update from Augusta, brought to you by Burger Republic. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3, The Game and The Game Nashville app. We're streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live every single day. And we're broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Predators taking on the Chicago Blackhawks on the road. Puck drop at 7:30 p.m. tonight, and right back here at Bridgestone Arena tomorrow night as well, taking on the Columbus Blue Jackets. We'll catch up with Chris Mason here in just about 30 minutes. So we'll meet with C-Mase. Normally joins us at 11:30 on a Friday, but with the travel and morning skate today, he joins us a little bit later on in the show. And joining us now is Willy D, although, oh my goodness. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Joe Dubin brings in these framed photos, and it is like a new day every single day in the studio.
It's like
D-Mase just got attacked by Three's Company.
Absolutely. Three's Company just fell all on me, trying to take me out.
Willy D joins us from Chicago. What's up, Willy?
I feel like I'm missing out with what's going on back at the station.
Yeah. Usually you would be sitting in the seat, Willy, and it would fall on you. But since you're not here, then I got to take the brunt of it.
He's taking the blow for you, Willy.
Well, it is an honor to be knocked down by Jack Tripper and
Chrissy and the rest
Cindy
of them.
And Janet, Chrissy and Janet, and the Ropers.
There you go. Gotta love the Ropers.
That is a good show.
So, Willy, I was talking with D-Mase earlier. I said, do you remember around Thanksgiving time when it was leaked that Texas A&M had intentions of hiring Mark Stoops? And the entire Texas A&M fan base went rabid on social media, on message boards. They freaked out. They went full-on Shiano on Mark Stoops so badly that the Texas A&M athletic department thought, okay, maybe we should rethink this a little bit. Maybe we'll take a couple of steps back. That's exactly what I thought the Kentucky fan base was going to do last night when it was announced that Mark Pope will be the next head coach of the Kentucky Wildcats. Your initial reaction when you heard the news?
I'm really surprised. I'm not surprised by, say, maybe a younger Kentucky fan's reaction because they may not feel the connection with Mark Pope. But I am surprised in general that you would be that anti a guy that really made his mark. If just forget about the name, you talk about a player that was on one of the greatest teams of all time. Not just for Kentucky, who has a very storied history, but for any college basketball team in the last 50 or 60 years. That Kentucky team that he played on was up there at the top. It's top three, I would think. And a guy that wasn't just a player on that team that just kind of was there, right? And the greatness of that team was their depth. It wasn't just the 3 or 4 best players. But he played in the NBA for a long time. Like, ex-NBA player, ex-Kentucky great, played on a national championship. You would think that alone would keep you from getting any kind of reaction that you're talking about, Caroline. That's why I'm surprised. So what's the beef? I think if you talk to actual coaches and people around the game, they think he's ready for this job. He's done a very good job. He's just not the big, sexy name.
And I think that's what Kentucky fans... Mm-hmm. This is what I think the perspective was, because I think that the outrage doesn't necessarily fit the resume. Like, is Mark Pope going to win a national championship at Kentucky? I don't know. But it's not like he is...
How does anybody know? Who is?
Nobody knows.
Who would you... Nobody knows, right?
Mitch Barnhart, who hired the guy, doesn't know. I mean, Tennessee fans, I think, were ready to light pitchforks in the streets after they hired Josh Heupel. I think they're pretty happy with what they've gotten from Josh Heupel. But that's not to say that this is going to be the same scenario. Like, Mark Pope could have 3 consecutive losing seasons, and then he gets fired, and Kentucky's looking for a new coach 3 years from now. I do not know. But, I mean, I'll look at Ken Pom from this past year. BYU did have a higher Ken Pom rating than Kentucky did this past season. And it's not like Kentucky basketball was finishing with seasons that they were all jazzed about over the past couple of seasons, because I know there's been a lot of nitpicking of Mark Pope's success in the postseason. And frankly, you don't attract very much talent to BYU. Not nearly as much talent as you can attract to Kentucky. So I would say that Calipari's been more disappointing in the postseason with the talent that he had than Mark Pope has with the talent that he has had. But
Can I ask,
think,
Caroline, what is the people that are making the noise, right? And that's what I would call it, is noise. because I think basketball people and I think traditional Kentucky people have got to be at least a little bit excited to say, we got a guy that's from our roots, right? This guy is Kentucky blood. I think there's an upside to that. But what's the complaint from the people that are making all the noise?
I think the complaint is, one, could we have not gotten a guy that maybe had a little bit more success? But to that, I would say they tried. Like, what was Mitch Barnhart supposed to do? Get on his knees and beg and grovel and kidnap Dan Hurley and, blindfold him and put him in a U-Haul from Connecticut to Kentucky? Like, Dan Hurley didn't want to go to Kentucky. Scott Drew didn't want to go to Kentucky.
You're describing Celtics pride. That's what you're describing. The movie.
Oh, is it? Am I really?
Yes. Kidnapped the coach, or in that case, Willie, you remember they kidnapped the player from Boston? And they had him hostage for the game.
They tried to get the sexy coach. But I think that the complaint from Kentucky fans, beyond just he's not nearly as sexy as Dan Hurley or Billy Donovan, is with Mark Pope, a guy, Willie, like you mentioned, with ties to the University of Kentucky that is, bleeds blue. Could they not have waited a little bit longer? Maybe picked up the phone for a few more coaches, waited for Billy Donovan to get through the in-season tournament? Because Mark Pope probably would have been there in 2 weeks, in 3 weeks. That Kentucky probably could have vetted a few more candidates before they landed on Mark Pope.
Well, here's my perception of it. They were desperate. They didn't want to take a chance on losing someone else. They couldn't sit back and wait, on Mark Pope. What if you'd have took another job somewhere else? This tells you, at least it tells me, again, what I have been saying, that Kentucky is a good program, but it's not the program that people are propping it up to be at this point. Coach Cal was the program. He's leaving. Now you got to readjust. And the market just told you your program's not what you thought it was. Why? You had to rush and get Mark Pope. Now, Mark Pope may turn out to be a great head coach for UK, a great head coach. He did some good work at BYU. Before that, being at Utah Valley, he has, two 20-game winning seasons. So he's a good coach. You can tell he can coach. People got to get used to Coach Cal not being there. They got to get used to not possibly having the teams that Coach Cal brought into Kentucky. Because to me, it was about Coach Cal, and the university was second. Coach Cal was bigger than the university in regards to bringing these recruits in. Can Mark Pope bring the recruits in? That's going to be the big question. Is he going to get some recruits? Yeah, he's going to get some recruits. He's going to get some 4-star guys, some 5-star guys here and there. Is he going to get them at the clip that Coach Cal? Because they've gotten used to it.
But I don't.
Kentucky fans have gotten used to it for 15 years.
But I think Kentucky fans are getting tired of getting all the 5 stars and not doing anything with them.
But the minute they
means nothing.
They're going to start complaining. If they don't get these 5-star guys like they used to get, Kentucky fans will start complaining, especially if the play is just okay. If we're not taking these 2- and 3-star guys and developing them, then they're going to be looking back as like, hell, we should have kept Coach Cal, because at least during the season, we were good. And we just crossed our fingers when we got in the tournament. That's what the Kentucky fans got to get adjusted to.
And I think if you could put together good teams at Brigham Young and Utah Valley, I think you can probably say that there's a pretty good chance you can recruit to Kentucky. Is what I would say. He's got 9 years as a head coach, and so he's done some recruiting. He also knows Kentucky. I think you could sell Kentucky pretty well if you're Mark Pope. You also have, I think, a really energized older part of the fan base that is probably going to be responsible for your NIL material. I was listening to Jeff Goodman talk about this part of it, and that they remember Mark Pope. Right? The people who are old enough to give money and care a lot probably have great memories of Mark Pope and those Kentucky teams, it will mean something to them. So I think they'll go in with a good war chest. And it's not just about getting the high school players, right? As we know, it's much more about blending some good high school recruits with some transfers, guys you develop. It's a different formula, which is why Cal failed by Kentucky standards the last 4 years. So it remains to be seen how Pope does that. But that really is what it's all about. It's not just recruiting to Kentucky. It's playing the game that's in there right now. But
he played the game.
I think he'll do well there.
Well, he played the game a couple of years ago when Sheboy was on the team. That was an older team. He played the game. He figured it out, but he just didn't get it done in the tournament, So Pope can play the game, but he got to play the game and he has to win. That's basically
I also
what it
understand,
boils down to.
I don't know how this works, but as I understand it, this is what, again, Goodman was in a discussion that I was listening to him. I think he's pretty good at knowing the pulse. Because I was wondering about Donovan myself. But if you had to wait until Donovan's team is eliminated from the NBA, you're missing out on a huge window. Apparently the next 8 to 10 days in the transfer portal are going to be huge in terms of the best players are out there and all of the – it's like the free agency period. This is sadly what it's become, but that's what it is now, right? It's the free agency period. So if you waited until you had your guy until after this first wave of transfers are in the portal, already you're probably putting yourself in a big hole for next year. You're putting yourself behind. Is that fair to say? So striking now and taking Pope rather than, hey, let's wait, let's make a few more calls to see if we can get the sexy guy, it might cost you some players in the short term.
Yeah, you're right about that. It may cost you some players, but you also want to get the right guy in here. And I'm not saying that Pope isn't the right guy, but I don't think you rush it just because you want to be in line to get some of these transfer. Because even if you get the transfer, if the coach ain't a good coach, it don't matter who you got on the court. If you can't coach him up, i.e. Coach Cal, you're going to end up in the same situation that you were in for the past, 15 years with Coach Cal. Really good recruiting class is sometimes great. But then once we get in the tournament, we underachieve.
Yeah,
this is another point I would make, Caroline, is if you're going to make noise about, okay, he's only been to 2 NCAA tournaments, who is this guy? We need to get a sexier name. That's a pretty shallow take, I think. Like if you're attacking his character and saying, why are we getting a guy? That was the Greg Schiano, right? There was a question about the character and something that, he was tied into the Penn State thing. Right. That's why the Tennessee people freaked out.
The Stoops situation, they just didn't want Mark. They didn't think Mark Stoops was good enough.
Yeah, but again, the people that are making those takes, I think, probably don't really know anything about Mark Pope, to be honest with you, right? They're not watching BYU and really breaking down tape and saying the BYU teams, they don't know what they're doing. Why do we have this? Yeah, I think sometimes if you're just looking at NCAA tournament wins, that's a little bit of a shallow take. I think this is where Mitch Barnhart has to know that there's more there. Because I think you could argue one way or the other that, BYU is a good program. BYU was in Gonzaga and St. Mary's conference for 4 of the 5 years that he was there. And so in that league, you're not going to get a bid unless you are really, really good. So that's not like a 6 or 7 bid league, right? That's a unique league. And then they went to the Big 12 and they held their own very well in one of the toughest leagues in the country last year and made the tournament.
In a place that's really hard to recruit.
Absolutely. Okay, let's talk about recruits to BYU. Right? It's not a wide highway. It's not an 8-lane highway of players that you can get, right? You've got to get a specific type of player, and most of the time, right, it's not going to include a high level of 4- and 5-star recruits, right? They're just not going to go to BYU because of what there's a lot of the Mormon thing. There's no question. There's a lot of strict rules at BYU for your lifestyle. And that's not for everybody. So you have to work within those lanes. And I think based on that, he recruited very well to have teams that averaged over 20 wins a season and were always in the mix, and went to the tournament 2 years out of 5.
And I think that, to the point of Kentucky fans of, couldn't we have waited for Mark Pope? I think that's indicative that Billy Donovan wasn't interested. Because if Billy Donovan truly was a top 3 candidate, like it was widely reported that he was, along with Scott Drew and with Dan Hurley, do you think they would have just scrapped him as a candidate to hire Mark Pope? Because I don't think that they would have. I think that if Billy Donovan expressed even a shred of interest, that Kentucky would have been willing to wait until after the Bulls were bounced from the in-season tournament. I think Billy Donovan said, look, I'm not interested. I'm good. Don't wait around for me because I don't want to take this job. And I think the second
And I think he cares enough to tell them that, right? He wouldn't string them out.
Exactly. And I do think that it's important that Mark Pope understands Kentucky. That Kentucky's a different place. That to take on that job as the head basketball coach at the University of Kentucky, you need to know what you're getting into. I think Mark Pope understands that. And that may have been something that Scott Drew wasn't willing to take on. Now, look, I feel like I'm in a pretty good spot here at Baylor with fans that aren't going to, find my address and knock on my door at night if we don't win a basketball game, which could be the case at Kentucky. That Mark Pope wants to take on the circus and I don't say that in a demeaning way, but it is a circus of Kentucky basketball because, listen to this.
Hello, University of Kentucky. Man, I wish I could be there with you guys tonight. It's impossible for me to describe how much I love this university, my teammates, and you fans, but I'm going to try. C-A-T-S! Cats! 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 I love you guys.
A little bit of a cringe. Listen, I'm not going to lie. A little cringe to watch him rip his suit off and reveal his Kentucky uniform that he wore when he was a player. It's a tough watch. But you can't say that he doesn't love Kentucky.
Hey, he loves Kentucky. He bleeds blue, I tell you that. But, bleeding blue, if it doesn't translate into bleeding wins, then you're going to be bleeding out of there in about 2 or 3 years. That's what you're going to be doing.
Just win.
Just win.
That's all that matters.
But he's going to have to do it. I think because this is what I was saying, Willie, Caroline. They may have to do it in a different way that was different from what Coach Cal, that many Kentucky fans got used to. They got used to the high-profile recruits, the 5-star guys, everything that surrounds that, the whole hoopla and all this other stuff. They've gotten used to that. Now they may have to get used to a different approach by Mark Pope. He may not get you the number 1 recruiting class in the country or the top 5 recruiting class in the country. If you're okay with that, then you may have a chance because, again, he may get you the 3 and 4 guys, but coach him up, and they may fall in the middle of the SEC, but then get in the tournament, and they go further than what they have the last couple of years. They may be a good team in the regular season, but then they kick it in during the playoffs. But we won't know that until it starts. So you just got to get used to possibly a different approach to recruiting and a different approach to coaching. If you can get used to that, Kentucky, then I think, you may be able to stomach a year of possibly rebuilding in a sense or rebranding the program, wherever you want to call it, until he gets his roster or his team the way he wants it. Because it's going to take a few years.
And I know it's going to be under a microscope.
Oh, of course.
The Kentucky fans are already pissed off about it. The first game that they lose, they're going to want to throw them out of there.
But that's every year. That's Kentucky every year, really.
It doesn't make it okay.
Yeah, it doesn't make it okay.
Yeah,
They like Dallas fans.
but this is just life as the Kentucky coach. This is just how they're going to be. So I do think his love of the program, what he just showed you in that clip, I do think you can buy yourself some time rather than a Billy Gillespie who had no idea how to handle that part of it, and he got chewed up and spit out. I think Pope will do a better job with all that stuff. We should mention, too, that maybe one of his great years at BYU, he would have made the tournament, but there was no tournament in 2020. So he really would have made it 3 out of 5 years at BYU, which is not easy to do.
CATS, 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 cats. All right, the Predators are in action tonight against the Chicago Blackhawks on the road. Puck drop at 7:30. D-Mase, Chris Mason will join us coming up next to break it all down. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase were brought to you by Zen Sports. Start earning cash rewards on your bets today. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and in Tennessee to bet. Damn it. Take a giveaway. Will you let Willy know we'll do it at the top of this next segment before we bring C. Mason? Thank you.
Hey, let's tell you about Lee Company, proud sponsor of our Nashville Predators coverage, which will resume tonight here in the Windy City of Chicago. They will start their coverage at 6:30 tonight. It'll be another chapter in the journey. Predators have clinched a playoff spot, now playing to see if they can get to wild card position number 1. They've got the inside track on it, but they'll need to continue to get points here in these last 3 games. Meanwhile, Lee Company, it's up here in Chicago. It's an absolutely beautiful day. I think Ferris Bueller would have taken the day off for sure. And that means in Nashville, the warm weather is coming up here soon. Make sure your air conditioning unit is running properly. Call them at 615-567-1000 or go to leecompany.com if you want to get that air conditioning unit check. And I highly recommend that you do that. Make sure it's running efficiently. You don't want to be paying higher bills monthly than you need to be. And you definitely don't want the crisis where it just is on the verge of going out on you and you're sitting there in the 95-degree heat going, where's the AC? Lee Company, 615-567-1000 or leecompany.com.
Slick backhand try right in front of Chris Mason. And now the quick pass down the middle, breaking in, and the backhand stopped by Chris Mason. And Marlowe with a 2-on-1, a 3-on-1, and what a stop by Mason. Chichu right in front, and what a stop on Ekman by Mason. And goal, number 3, Chris Mason.
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase. We're broadcasting from the busy B Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Predators on the road taking on the Chicago Blackhawks tonight, and joining us now to break it all down is Chris Mason, C-Mase. But C-Mase, first, we got to give something away because the Predators have made the playoffs. We're all in a great mood. The Preds are in action tonight. So we are giving away a pair of tickets to see the first Preds home playoff game at Bridgestone Arena. So be the first person to answer Willy's trivia question correctly. Call 615-737-1025. Again, call, do not text, call with the answer to Willy's trivia question, and you will win a pair of tickets to the first Predators home playoff game. Take it away, Willy.
All right. I want somebody who really loves this team to get these tickets today because these are going to be highly sought after here. A lot of people here in Chicago, so we've got to have a Predator Blackhawk chapter here from the playoffs. So let's take maybe the most fun part. Kevin Fiala's overtime goal against the Blackhawks that gave the Predators a 3-0 games lead in the series in 2017 in the first round, where they eventually swept the Blackhawks. Just a great moment in Predator history. I want to know who got the primary assist, who fed the pass to Kevin Fiala for that game-winning goal, which was so special. The reaction in that building was just unforgettable for sure. So, 615-737-1025 for playoff tickets to this coming year. Who had the primary assist? Who fed the pass to Kevin Fiala for the goal?
Dennis Rodman. Nope.
It is not Dennis Rodman.
Close.
It is not.
Super close.
Dennis Rodman, though, I think would have helped any team. As long as he could have skated, he probably would have found a way to have an impact on the game.
And that is going to be the hottest ticket in town. So call in with the correct answer to Willy's trivia question and enjoy the first Predators playoff game. C-Mase joins us now. C-Mase, we went from starting the season with Barry Trotz tempering expectations. Say, hey, be patient with us. A 5-10 start, and we started to have conversations of selling at the deadline, of trading the goalie. Now here we are, and the Predators have clinched a playoff spot. Just your reaction and overall reflection of this Predators season as a whole and how we've gotten to this point.
It's been a great story, and to look back to kind of all the things that you mentioned there with what Trotzy has said and what he said at the beginning, the vision that they had building this team, the guys that they brought in had the intended impact, I think, on the group, on the younger players, on the way that they've kind of formed their identity. And, I was thinking today, I was thinking back to, some chats that we all had with Andrew Burnett at the beginning of the year, and Willy remember this, and we're asking about certain players and, what do you think about this guy and what do you think about that guy? And, for quite a bit of the year, he would say, for the first part anyway, I'm still getting to know them. I'm still trying to get to know them. So he's very methodical, very detailed. In everything that he does is calculated. And I just think now that they finally made it, he knows his guys. He found the right combinations. He found the right lineup. There was a lot of guys sitting in and out. He was very effective with, a guy struggling. All right, you're going to sit for a couple games. You're going to sit for a game. It's just a reset, and with the wording of the decisions he made. And I just think it's been just an amazing story and a team that, quite honestly, I have the utmost respect for because of the way they play the game. It's fun watching them. They have just, unbelievable camaraderie. And I think it's a special group, and it's really cool to look back at, the beginning, I guess, of Barry Trotz's era and Andrew Burnett, and to see, how this team, and give the players a lot of credit too. There've been a lot of changes for them, and they found a way to come together and kind of defy, the odds, I guess, and not in their own room, but by everybody else. It's been fun.
We'll talk with C-Mase, Chris Mason, one half of the television broadcasting, play-by-play for the Nashville Predators. Now, question I do want to ask you, C-Mase, because all sports are different, and as you start to enter playoff play, with the Predators having, 4 or 5 games here remaining, and then they're going to have at least 3 or 4 days to rest. From your experience as a player, when do you start mentally preparing for the playoffs? Because you got your spot locked up, and I know they still can kind of, float between that 1 and that 2 wild card spot. But for the most part, you're in the playoffs. But when is it does that mind? When does the mind thought changes for the players and the coaches in regards to how do they prepare for the next opponent heading into the playoffs?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I think almost as soon as the regular season ends, this is a kind of a unique end for the Predators, because there's 3 more days after the season, so they might not know who they play until, on Thursday, the last day of the actual regular season for the NHL. So it's kind of a unique situation, that they're in. But as soon as the regular season's over, that's when it's go time. They'll be watching. They'll probably get a couple days off, because I believe they'll almost have a week off in between from their last game of the season to the first game of playoffs. So they've got a lot of time to rest, a lot of time to, to really manage that well and give a couple days off, and then, start preparing for their opponent once they find out who they're playing. But that's when kind of that mindset flips. As soon as that regular season's done, it's almost like an instant switch. You're like, all right, who are we playing? What do we got to do to beat them?
C-Mase, let's talk about tonight. This is something I know has been discussed the last couple of days. I know Andrew Burnett was talked to at practice yesterday about this whole thing, is the balance of still continuing to try to stay sharp and win, and maybe trying to set the pieces to where you have a chance to maybe rest a couple guys a little bit. And it looks like we're going to see that balance a little bit tonight.
Yeah, I think that's just smart. You're going back-to-back games here. Get some guys some rest. Juice stays home. There's no sense we're going to be getting in at 2:00 in the morning for him to go through that, when he can, just get some recovery. Kevin Lankinen will get a chance. I don't think he's ever played a game in Chicago against his former team. So, that's the route they were going to go to disperse the goalies anyway. So it's just smart and you just, as hard as these games, I think, I know the Predators still have, stuff to play for, and they want to solidify, that first spot, I guess, that wild card spot. The bigger picture is staying healthy, making sure your guys are rested, and nobody gets hurt. So, the big picture of it, it's a great move, and, it's nice to be in that situation where you can actually do that.
Right. And at the same time, they want to win. And we're looking at everything that developed the last couple of days. There's a couple of big games going on. Edmonton plays tonight against Arizona, and then they have a huge game with Vancouver tomorrow night. And if Edmonton wins both, all of a sudden Edmonton's got a real legit shot of winning the Pacific. Andrew Burnett had an interesting answer yesterday about potential opponents, and he said, I've been in a lot of situations where I thought, oh, man, we have to play so-and-so, and then we beat them. Or he said, I've also been around long enough to have some years where we're like, oh, man, this is exactly who we wanted. This is the matchup we're looking for. And then they stink it out in the first round. So he goes, who we play is who we play. Do you buy that?
I buy that. I like that. I mean, if you're in the league last year and you're going against the Florida Panthers, you would have been, oh, yes, this is exactly the matchup we want. These guys barely got in, blah, blah, blah. They go to the final. You just never know. You run into a hot goaltender, you run into that team that's kind of scratched and clawed to get into the playoffs. They've got that desperation. They've been playing, playoff style just to get in. And, you can catch teams sleeping that way. And I agree with what he says. I'm thinking, maybe we talked about this too, Willie, like maybe Vancouver would be the best chance. And if you go out west, you might have an easier route to you're going to have to go through the big dogs at some point. And I think the first round is honestly one of the, best ways that you can catch one of those teams is in the first round. So if they end up playing Dallas, then so be it. And I agree with his mentality. And I believe that he truly believes that as well.
Real quick, give us a thought about what you're seeing with Luke Evangelista. This is another subject that's coming off of that performance the other night where he had 10 shots. He had a big goal to tie the game against New Jersey. He looks like his all-around game has grown a lot, especially since maybe about a half away through the season where he was getting scratched still here and there. People might not remember he was scratched in the 9-2 game. Against Dallas, the game that was sort of the turning point. He was a healthy scratch that game there. So it really looks like he's gone through the growing pains to get to where he is.
He has, and it's, again, I just love his attitude right from the beginning. He's just like a sponge. He wants to learn. He's soaking in all the things from the players around him, all the good influences, and he was going out early with Ryan O'Reilly and trying to, work on his net front game and just different elements of his game that at the NHL have to be at a different level. You can get away with it when you're a younger player, let's say in the American League or junior, because you're more talented than 95% of the players in that league, and the game's a little easier for you. But when you get to the National Hockey League, everyone's just as good as you. It's the will. It's learning how to adapt, learning how to play away from the puck, which is one of the biggest improvements in his game. And Andrew Burnett commented on that and just said he's really learned the things that he needs to do to get the puck and play with it. He's got the skill, but until you can find an effective way to get that puck, your skill does you no good when you don't have it on your stick. And I think he has added a lot more grit to his game. He's spicy. He's one of those types of players that can get in there and agitate, but he's got skill. And I think once you start figuring those things out, the game starts slowing down for you, and the ice you see plays develop more. And I think he's just had a really good development in his rookie year.
D-Mase, you are the best. We appreciate you as always, and appreciate you being flexible with us today. We'll catch up with you next week.
Okay, thank you guys. Talk to you soon.
Appreciate it. Safe travels home. D-Mase, he is the absolute best, and you can tune into 94.9 The Fan this Sunday for coverage of the Auto Trader Echo Park Automotive 400. Mouthful there. Mm-hmm. Coverage will begin at 1:30 p.m. with the race starting at 2:30 p.m. Coverage also available on the 94.9 The Fan app and at 949thefan.com. We'll take it to the bank coming up next, but first, an update from Augusta. Your leaderboard update from Augusta is brought to you by Burger Republic. Go try their limited time green jacket burger for a true master's experience. An update from Augusta, a two-way tie between Bryson DeChambeau and Scotty Scheffler, each 7 under. Bryson DeChambeau through 8, Scotty Scheffler through 2, Max Homa through 13, 6 under, good for third place. That is your Augusta update, brought to you by Burger Republic.
Hey, let's talk F&M Bank, because we are about to take it to the bank, as we do every Friday at this time. Gotta love it, and we love our relationship with F&M Bank. Banking made easy on purpose. Is there a better way to approach your finances? Who loves doing finances? Unless you're that oddball that everybody does, that does a number cruncher. Yeah, we all love doing that. There are some people like that, but when it comes to finances, most of us, they just want to keep it simple. And that is where F&M Bank helps you, regardless of where you are in your financial life. If you're just getting started and trying to learn how to use your finances and set up a good system where you save your money, might we recommend the Smart Swipe card, where you have a very easy way of saving money every time you use that debit card, the Smart Swipe roundup feature. So if you make a purchase of $5.28 for a cup of coffee, it rounds up to $6. You save that 72 cents. Very simple way to save money every time you use that debit card. Gotta love that. Plus, if you're a business owner or a different part of your financial life, they've got that business for you because your business means more to them. They want to make it simple. They're a part of your community. Go to myfmbank.com to find the nearest location and tell them you heard about all of this from us here at 102.5 The Game, because a little bit can mean a lot when it comes to banking. F&N Bank, member FDIC.
comes the money.
And you can take that to the bank.
Here comes the money.
It's now time to take it to the bank with F&M Bank. F&M Bank, banking made easy on purpose. At F&M Bank, their mission is to make lives better by making banking easier. So visit one of their 20 locations throughout Middle Tennessee and Southern Kentucky or online at myfmbank.com. A little crunch for time, so we don't have time for a recap, but I do know that I took to the bank a South Carolina national championship. Cha-chang, cha-chang.
Indeed you did,
1
Caroline.
point for me.
Yes.
Nick, who goes first this week?
You know, because D-Mase had a perfect 10 last week.
Oh,
Go ahead.
wow, D-Mase. All right.
Yes, baby. Yes.
I've never seen this happen
Yes.
before.
I don't know. I was there for silly underdog picks. And
What's the score?
That was another good one.
What's the score after 2 weeks? Can we do
Yes.
that real quick?
I can do that. Willie, you are still in the lead with 20.
Yes.
Oh my goodness, I'm down near the bottom, but Caroline has 18,
Ooh,
and
I'm creeping up on you, Willie.
D-Mase has 13, and I'm still stuck with
Okay.
12. So that is the update.
All right. So who going first?
Go ahead.
All right. So I'm going with this. I heard this from this morning too. So I'm going to, Rex Road brought it up. But the Lakers and the Grizzlies, Lakers are plus 12.5, I think. Rex took Memphis. I'm going to take the Lakers. I'm going to take the Lakers 12 and a half. I'm going to take the Lakers 12.5. I'm taking the Tigers this weekend versus the Minnesota Twins.
This is just a Homer special.
Hey, you're absolutely right.
Pick it with your
And
heart.
I'm going with the Nashville Predators to score more than 3 goals against the Chicago Blackhawks.
I love it.
Not too
There we
shabby.
go.
Caroline?
All
All right, hold on. Are we talking one game, Tigers Twins? Or are we talking about winning the series?
No, I'm
What's-
talking
what's
about
the-
they play today. I'm just talking about
yeah.
today's
So just
game. Yep,
tonight's
just
game.
Tonight's
Okay,
game.
just
Yep.
tonight's game.
Okay.
We've got an LSU Tennessee baseball series this
Homer.
weekend. And
Talk
unlike
about me.
D-Mase, I'm going to take Tennessee to win the series.
wow.
Because LSU is truly awful. Truly dreadful. So I'm going to take Tennessee to win the series. Not necessarily a sweep, but I'm going to take Tennessee to win the series. And I'm going to take Luca Evangelista with at least 1 goal this weekend, either tonight against Chicago or tomorrow against Columbus. And I'm going to say that the Predators win both games this weekend.
Oh, okay, Caroline.
Ooh, okay.
Willie,
Okay.
can you wrap it up here,
Feeling
sir?
the pressure. I'm feeling the pressure here. I've got to stay in the lead. I'm looking for a little baseball action here. I'll tell you what, the Baltimore Orioles are really, really coming on. I watched them last night against the Red Sox. The last couple of nights I've watched a little bit of their games. Man, they are good. They've got the Brewers coming up this weekend. I say the Orioles at home are going to take the series 2 out of 3 against the Brewers. And I'm going to try again for the Polar Bear. I figured I've missed on this so many times. Eventually I'm going to hit one. So I'm going to say Polar Bear, Pete Alonso with a home run this weekend against the Kansas City Royals, who, by the way, are 9-4. Kansas City all of a sudden is maybe has a ball club here.
Yeah.
Quickly,
They've been
Nick,
bad
what you
for a
got?
while.
So I have the Preds to win both their games this weekend.
Okay.
I have Philip Forsberg to break the single-season scoring record.
Love it.
And also have Jackson Holliday to get his first MLB hit this weekend. So, yeah.
He got a hit yesterday.
Oh, did he? Well,
I
then
believe
we'll
so.
go a little step
Unless
higher.
it was recorded as an error.
Well, we go home run. We'll go home run for the weekend.
There
How
we
about
go.
that?
You amped
I
it up
like
a little
it.
bit.
Just amp it.
I
You ain't
love
scared.
It. All right, that's going to do it for us today. We'll be back Monday morning at 11 a.m. Stillman & Company's up next.
Be love on your people. Have a great and happy and safe weekend. Peace.